Okay, well, thanks for being so brisk, and I think we're going to take too much time, but it's really good to get a sense of first of all discipline areas and also the scale of the teaching tasks they face. So good luck, Paul. If you want to write on your postcards and I'll collect them in and I'll read them out, and if Paul hasn't answered your question, we won't let him go.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Kingsley. My name is Paul Midovich, and I lecture in macroeconomics in the School of Social Sciences. The work that we do, I won't tell you how many students I teach because it's an awful number. This work that we do, we enjoy our teaching innovation. It's a joint with my colleagues, Will Mondro, who's an e-learning technologist in the faculty e-learning team, and Mark Brown, who's a senior lecturer in social statistics in the same school. Is that right? Okay. Lovely. What we're going to talk about today, try to get through today, advanced approaches for large cohort teaching is the aim. When we wrote the course, it's brand new. When we wrote this course, we very much had in mind our cohort, which is experienced staff, senior lecturers, professors, and with that in mind, we'd like really for you to receive this as not a how to teach, but how we teach. So we'd like to just share our innovations with you, and we hope that you find it interesting and fun, above all, and of course thought-provoking. In the subject of thought, your thoughts, we would like you to feed back to us during this session via two mediums. One is through Twitter, and if we would try to put some of these comments up at the end of the session so that we can react to them today. So if you, we would very much appreciate your comments on Twitter. If you've set up a Twitter account, please use this account. It's at Inno8, no pun intended, under hash MCR. Also, you'll be able to feedback using TurningPoint ResponseWare, which is something that we're showcasing today, and the feedback via TurningPoint here will be totally anonymous. So you can leave any comment you like, but we won't be displaying that. Does anybody have if you have mobile phones or a laptop or anything that can access the internet in this room, I would appreciate it in preparation if you'd go to www.rwpoll.com, enter the session ID MANC, and then after that you should see the message polling closed, which means that everything is ready and waiting to go. Does anybody not have a web-enabled device with them? We still have a device that you can use. If you could put your hand up now if you would like that device. Will?
Yeah, sure, yeah. I think some of you, you might have received an email beforehand about bringing iPads, phones, smartphones, etc. But we've got this back up here, these little clickers. You don't need to turn these on.
Okay. If you use the University of Manchester Wi-Fi, alternatively, we have a clicker for you.
Okay, anybody's been given a clicker, you don't need to turn these on.
Do you want to give me some?
Does anyone else need one? No. That's great. Okay, because this is an interactive session, and
Okay. So just to reiterate to you that we very much value your feedback in this course, because your comments will help us to, in a dynamic sense, to change the course. And this is something that the students that we teach benefit from, which is that they have some input as the course progresses on the actual course itself. So very much look forward to your comments. I've written these up here on the right-hand side on the blackboards as we go through. If you do get yourself logged out and you need the details again, they're all here on Blackboard 9.
So I think if you're stuck, we'll come round and help.
yeah.
So
Okay.
just put your hand up.
So just to open up the voting then, and to get your hands dirty, so to speak, perhaps you would try to vote right now and answer the question, where are you from? And you can choose one of your options. If you're voting over the web, you'll see this come up on your screen. And if it's a touch screen, you'll just be able to push for the answer. And with the clicker, all you need to do is to make your latest response it will take.
So you just press the numeric button on the clicker.
And as you can see, we have 12 responses, 15 responses from you at 17 and climbing. I think we'll probably looking at the size.
Sorry, did you use the data?
Just press the menu button twice. The clickers are actually a little bit more complicated than mobile phones to use.
Okay, we have 20 responses, which is around 50% of you, is that right?
Yeah.
No, you don't need to. Just on the mobile phone, just select the answer that you chose, and you'll see that the button goes slightly black, and that's fine. It's counted.
Well, I have 22 responses, so I'm going to close the polling and reveal your cohort to you. And we see that 48% or half of you are from the Faculty of Humanities, and surprisingly 4% of you are from another faculty, which is very interesting. It must be a new faculty that we have. Okay. So I'm going to ask another question. That was just a nice warm-up for you. Just to think briefly how you might use this teaching technology yourselves and what is most obvious to you. And I don't want you to think about it too much. To break up lecture content, to enable students to monitor their own progress in class, to gain feedback from your teaching explanation, or to collect data for your teaching or your teaching research, or provision of other benefits to students. So I'd ask you to vote at the beginning. We'll ask you this question and we may revisit this. There. So we have 9 responses from you. Quite a large dropout rate. One answer. If you could just choose your best and most obvious choice.
No, when you go to www.rwpoll.com, so you might like to go back to that web address, the password is MAG. Yes, type MAG. Try that again, let's have a look. And is it working? Just click it. Just try and refresh that page.
Okay, I'm going to close the polling now. I'll just warn you of that if you haven't made your choice yet. And I'll close it now. Which reveals that 35% of you feel that gain feedback from your teaching or your type of explanation. Obviously you can then, if you've given a question in multiple choice question, testing your students on the spot doesn't measure their absorption of the material. So it's very good. Now I'm going to hand over to Will, who's going to quickly do a warm-up task.
Yeah, this is a little task, sorry. I'd like you just for a second just to commit yourself to this task, and I'd like you to write down a bit of paper, something that you feel you're good at, something you're proud of, you think you're good at, something that's helped you in your career. Something, work related, something that's helped you in your career. Something that's helped you in your career. Something you're proud of, something you're good at. Is it working? Would you mind just passing that to the fitness lab over there? You don't need to turn it on, just press the numeric buttons. When it's prompting you. If any of you having slight problems with the Wi-Fi, if you refresh this page, you think you might find that it does update automatically, but okay, write down a bit of paper.
Okay, Will, do you want to hold that now? Try poll it then.
Okay, and sorry, one other step to this, please. I'd like you just to also think about how you became good at that thing. This is a bit of a thought class. You don't need any technology to do this apart from pen and paper. So this gives me a second just to collect yourself. And do you need a clicker as well? Sorry.
Well, I don't know, it's just it's stuck.
You've got to get clickers this lady here. If anyone else is having Wi-Fi problems, sometimes they happen, and I think about 20 of you are okay. Okay, so if you committed yourself on paper about how you became good at that thing. All right, okay. Next slide. Oh, there's a prompt, by the way. Okay, on the next slide. Okay, these are sort of rough approximations that other people generally have the reason that they became good or how they became good at that thing was through a product of doing these things. Which of these do you feel most closely associates with the method that you identified previously?
So if it is more than one.
If it's more than one, choose the thing that most closely. Say again, sorry? Yeah, Paul, do you mind? I think we might need to hand out a few more clickers than what seems to be. With the clickers, you don't need to turn them on, you just press the numeric button that corresponds to the answer of choice. Okay, so we've got 18 responses. I think we're looking for about 24.
Can you only press it if you press it twice?
If you press it twice, it counts your last answer, so you cannot deliberately ruin this session.
Can I close the polling, Will?
Not by this method anyway.
Can I close the polling?
Yeah, we'll close the polling.
23, it's pretty
Yeah,
good.
that's fine. And now that's sorry, give me a second. Where was that? Oh, it hasn't voted. Hasn't clicked. We'll have to come back to that one in just a second.
All right. Okay, so we're going to move on. Course outline. For the course outline, we're just going to briefly discuss how we might think about what a large cohort is, and then some framework or maybe some process that we have ourselves adopted, or way of looking at the problems of large cohorts. And then, okay, we'll have to deal with that later. And then we will talk, Mark is going to give a talk about how he himself, like a case study, challenged the structure and his thoughts on challenging the traditional course structure. And then we're going to showcase this technology you've already been exposed to and talk about how we've used social media to engage with students. And then there'll be some information that we probably won't get to at the end, so I've put it in the appendix. What is a large cohort then? We can obviously, when we were discussing earlier, or Kingsley asked you to name the numbers of students that you work with. That's the most obvious way of thinking of large cohort. We might say, okay, well, it's 80 students, maybe 100, 150. What is large cohort? For economics, it might be very large indeed, 600. We also might think as large cohort being somewhere where they are in a large cohort environment. So a large lecture theatre with a small number of students in that. This is quite a small lecture theatre, but it may be, we could think of this as large cohort teaching just by the environment with which we are in. And then the other way of looking at large cohort teaching is through the discipline. Economics, we call a large cohort 600, but I'm sure they wouldn't call, in music, I'm sure they wouldn't call 600 flutes a large cohort. Maybe 3 or 4 flutes is enough at one time. So that might be large cohort. So it's very difficult to define. One thing we do associate large cohort with is a less intimate experience